Portions of this show are recorded. Strap in and be prepared.
Curious what the narrative's going to be now about the Oregon football team.
Did they get another unranked win?
Another unranked win. You know, you just can't get out of your own way, folks.
Interesting guests.
Kelly Graves, Mike Parker, Josh Pate, Melissa Lombardi, Yogi Roth, who said that Justin and I are smart.
Sharp opinions.
What's amazing to me is we're talking about a 10-1 team that's 7-1 in the Big Ten, like they're underdogs.
I know.
It's like, wow, how did that happen?
And some smiles.
No, I really put some effort in there.
And there was no try, there was just do, and you did. So no, I was
Yoda.
because
It's Danny Havel.
I mean, it's wave after wave after wave after wave of talent. That's good coaching. That is that whole culture, next man up attitude.
Justin Grossweiner.
I can't believe I'm saying this. Thank God for the Beavers. They saved the weekend for me.
Danny and Justin starts now on Fox Sports Eugene and Fox Sports Newport. Sitting in for Danny today, it's Goose, Steve Mims.
Welcome into the Danny and Justin show. This is Steve Mims filling in for Danny. Danny is on location in Atlanta for the national semifinal. We are about 26 and a half hours away from kickoff, and we will give you an hour of previews today. Danny, according to Justin, some of the photos I saw, it looks like he's at an aquarium or SeaWorld.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was all this sea life in Atlanta, but all these reporters I see are at the National College Football Hall of Fame, and Danny seems to be swimming with dolphins or something in Atlanta.
Yeah, Gary Stokan, when we had him on, he recommended that he go to the aquarium. So he decided to go.
Yeah,
I think someone else did as well. So
last time Danny went somewhere and saw sea life, he got a tattoo of it. So I'm hoping he comes back without like another sea turtle or something on a calf, but we'll see what happens.
And you texted that into our group chat, and the first thing that came to my mind is this is why you were a successful sports writer, because you've got really good connections. And I was like, you know what? He's right. He's absolutely right.
I appreciate that. That is Justin Grossweiner. Thanks for having me again today, Justin. It's the last Danny and Justin show before the Duck game. Actually, tomorrow there will be an expanded Danny and Justin show, 3 hours with you and Cameron Derby and a world full of guests.
It's going to be a good time. I appreciate you being here as always. You give good perspective, and we get a good chance to talk about a great game, and tomorrow's will be fun as well. We're going to have on Dave Rebson, the lead anchor at Big Ten Networks. We're going to talk to Adam Rittenberg, George Reister. We're trying to get Kenyon Barner. I'm not sure about that yet, but it's going to be a good time, and I'm really diving into this game. I mean, the more I think about it, the less I know what's going to happen. It's one of those games. I don't hate how Oregon is the underdog. I don't really have a great feel about who's going to win this game. It does feel like to me that it is Indiana's kind of storybook year, and if you're Oregon, and I'm sure Dane Lanning's thinking of some motivation right along that alley of like, you got to be the, I don't know, ruin the storybook ending, because right now it's Indiana's season, and you've got to be that team that comes in and says, no, this is our time.
Yep. I'm interested. And by the way, for folks tuning in, next segment, Zach Neal's going to join us from Atlanta. Not sure if he's at the aquarium. I know he was at the Hall of Fame, but Zach Neal's going to join us next hour, Ducks Wire, to talk about Oregon, Indiana. And in the last segment, we're going to have Travis Demers will join us to talk some Blazers. And if you were listening last night here, a big win for them last night. But yes, back to the game. And I've got something I was thinking about on this matchup. And it's one thing that I've been thinking that has me a little concerned about Oregon. And it's, I feel like there's just, in this matchup, there's a lot of noise going on with Oregon and not a lot with Indiana. And what I mean by that is, you know, we've heard obviously both coordinators are kind of juggling jobs. Dan Lanning has become like the spokesman for the college football, normalcy and the schedule. And I feel like that's been going on a lot. We've had a lot of folks going into the portal for Oregon. There's been a lot of discussion on, if you're tuning into ESPN, is Dante Moore staying? Is Dante Moore going? Feels like there's just been a lot of Oregon noise, and typical for Curt Cignetti, there hasn't been a lot of that. He's got both of his coordinators. His whole staff's fine. They're focused on the game. His quarterback, he knows, is leaving, going to be the number one pick. And it just feels to me like Cignetti's kind of, because we think, hey, everybody's talking about Indiana, how good they are. But I feel like the storylines have been, and the Jordan Davison injury, another storyline. Feels like the storylines and all the kind of breaking stuff is Oregon. And Oregon's there's just a lot of noise there, whereas Cignetti's just sitting in a film room and spending 24 hours a day kind of going through that with, again, coordinators who are not moving on to something else. We haven't heard a whole lot of players leaving there for the portal. And that's just one thing that I was seeing like yesterday is, I know that Oregon will be focused on this and that, but it just seems like there's more noise there than maybe you would want heading into a game like this.
I was thinking about that exact same thing this morning, honestly. And even for Indiana, they're doing great in the portal, so you can't even say there's a distraction there. Mm-hmm. I think for Oregon, the only thing I would say counter to that is the fact that, yes, I completely agree with you. There's a ton of distractions right now. I don't think any of them are their fault. Yeah. It's not like they're doing something wrong. It's just that the situation is what it is with the college football and the calendar, and their coaches are great, so they're going to get hired. It's like individually all these things are kind of fine, but they are adding up and they're stacking up. But at the same time, I do think that the national talk, I don't think anybody's really picking Oregon. And I think that in itself makes me feel a little bit better about Oregon. Yeah. Just the fact that it feels like, I don't remember if this was a conversation I was having with you or it was with Danny, but how many times has Dan Lanning not been the favorite in a game? I know the first game against Georgia. I know, though, as well against Washington.
State last year, they were 2-point underdogs, right? Even though they were ranked number one, they were 2-point underdogs.
That's right. I don't think they were favored against Penn State, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
I remember that one.
But it's been like 2 or 3, under 5 times where Dan Lanning hasn't been favored in a game, and they're not favored in this game. So there's something about that I don't know. I think that, yes, I agree. There's a lot of distractions right now, that the coaches are being pulled in different directions. But I sort of think that there's something about the Ducks kind of being the underdog, a little bit laying in the weeds, while kind of, they're talking about them, but they're almost kind of pushing them to the side a little bit and saying, again, like I've been saying, that it's Indiana's year. So we'll see. I think that once the game starts, it's very easy to think about that last matchup until the next game starts. And then you kind of realize, like, okay, no, this is a completely different game. The rosters are different. So I don't know. I think you have a great point, though. Absolutely, you have a great point. And if the Ducks do lose, it'll be really easy to point to all these things and go, well, look at this. This happened, and this happened, and this happened, and we'll see what happens on the field. Yeah,
which, like you said, no fault of their own. Players are going to leave. Coaches get jobs. It just feels like there's a lot more there than what's with Indiana. Dan Lanning and Curt Cignetti had final media availability today. It was at the College Hall of Fame. And they it's interesting. For two guys who are... Curt Cignetti could be Dan Lanning's dad, that are different generations and different styles. Dan's a little bit more excitable. Kurt's a little bit more stoic. For folks who watched it, and I saw it on Twitter, they're kind of kindred souls in a way. They're both all business. They both want to give no bulletin board material to the other team. They both want to, it's the old, hey, talk about how great the other team is. Even Cignetti, who can be a little sarcastic at some things, isn't doing it in any sort of way to take a shot at Dan. Dan, same way, a little bit kind of a joke back. In fact, Zach Neal's joining us, said they're kind of like a buddy cop movie type thing. But it's interesting to see how those two have done. But certainly neither one today was doing anything other than saying how great the other team was and how big of a challenge it was going to be to play them.
I think that's another great point, because I do think that they are very similar. And for Dan Lanning, he definitely has a very specific type of personality. And I almost think that Cignetti kind of is just like the older version of that. Yeah. And so he might be that perfect coach to almost counter what Dan Lanning does. That might be one of the edges that they have, just simply because of that. Obviously they have both been Cignetti's been at this level in a shorter period of time than Dan Lanning has. Yeah. That being said, Dan Lanning has been coaching for a lot less time than Cignetti. So I completely agree. I think it's fun to watch these two as head coaches. I think there's going to be some great adjustments coming into this game. That's one of the things I'm really looking forward to, is what kind of adjustments are there going to be between these two teams. And if you're winning a game, sometimes I feel like it's hard to adjust because you kind of had something that worked, right? And do you want to change the winning formula? But I think sometimes you have to. Yeah.
And the news cycle leading up to this game was a lot about Jordan Davis and the injury, obviously, but we found that out when he was here. And now, and I'm stealing some stuff from some folks on Twitter on this here, but the fact that the availability of Jay Harris has become a major storyline, and I'm seeing like Oregon fans breathing better because Jay Harris is going to be there, is a little stunning to me. Yeah. I think we talked about this. I think, if you're relying on Jay Harris for too much, that's probably not a great sign, since the guy's rarely seen the field during the 2 years he's been at Oregon. But yes, with Noah Whittington and De'Aaron Hill Jr., with those two, if there's a need for a third guy to give him a blow, or if one of those guys, God forbid, turns an ankle or something like that, we did find out that even though Jay Harris has said he's going into the portal, he is going to be available. But that said, if Jay Harris takes the field, it's probably telling you that Oregon has moved on to Plan B or Plan C.
No, that's you're just on fire today. It's a great point. And I saw a Twitter account that when it became clear that he was going to be sort of maybe the guy that was left, they were kind of praising him and saying that there was doubters, and then they learned that he was in the portal, and then they said, oh, I changed my mind, I hate you, and then they learned he actually was going to play. I'm sure that they're back on the Jay Harris train, but no, I think he's a good back. I don't think he's anything close to what Davison is, and there were times against Texas Tech where it just felt like, why are you not just trying to run up the middle with Davison? Like, just like, get these like few yards instead of just trying to go on the edge. And I don't know what's going on exactly. The injury probably was part of that. I don't know exactly. Did we ever find out when he was injured?
I think that I saw a video of late in the fourth where he was on kind of a goal line carry and went down and got up, and you could see him kind of grabbing.
The last one, but I heard that it wasn't the last carry that he.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know.
Yeah,
I didn't get the real story about it. But Jay Harris, I think he's a fine running back, and I was telling you before the show, what I think is going to happen is they are probably. If this was me at least, I would use Noah Whittington, not Kyle. I'm messing myself up now.
I said Whittington today,
yes,
not Whittingham.
Not Whittingham. I would use Whittington 25, 30 carries. Like, I would use him as the guy, basically, and then keep De'Aaron Hill Jr. in a similar role. He's most carries of his career that he's ever had is 10. So I would keep it around there, maybe give him up to 12 or 13 if things broke a certain way. And then if Jay Harris needs to get a goal line carry, then or two, or if someone gets injured, like you said, then you use him. But I don't think you all of a sudden use Jay Harris like you were using Davison, because that was a three-headed monster.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to figure out the last time there was a college football playoff game, and the most pressing question the day before was, is your
number three
string, your sixth string running back available to be your third string running back this week?
Yeah.
But we'll see how that one plays out. The playoffs actually resume tonight. As we talked about, we're about 2.5 hours away from me spending an evening on Cristobal Island with my good friend Mario. I am all Cristobal in on Mario and the Canes tonight. I think Miami wins. I think this is a physical matchup. I think Miami has the physicality to kind of overwhelm what Ole Miss a little bit. I think their lines, their offensive line sets up for this to be a game Mario loves. Just go out there and kind of run it a lot. Get Carson Beck. Again, his 12 to 15 pass attempts, completions a game, but not having to do much more. I think Mississippi's good. I think this could be a close game, but I really do think, and I know they're favored, I do think that Miami wins this thing tonight. And for me, I would love to see an Oregon-Miami matchup. I think that would be awesome just for the old journalist, the old Duck beat reporter and me would love to see that sort of a thing. Now, you, as somebody who roots for Oregon, who would you care? Would you rather, if I said you can pick, would you rather see Miami or Ole Miss, assuming Oregon gets the title game? Either of them a better matchup or a preferred matchup for you?
If you're telling me Oregon gets to the title game.
I'm saying Oregon's in. Who do you want them to play?
I want them to play Miami all the way, 100%. Okay. I think it's the highest risk reward. I think it'd be by far the worst team to lose to, right? Yeah. If you lose to Mario Cristobal in the title game, that would suck probably. Yep. But I do think that if you won against him, oh, that would be, oh man, I think Oregon fans would revel in that. And I also think that, well, I would say this though. If you want to play the team that I think Oregon has a better chance at winning against, I'm picking Ole Miss.
Yep.
I don't think they're as good of a team. And I also don't think they have the defensive line and the offensive line that Miami does. And I do think that's something where if you look at that last game against Texas Tech, I kept thinking about the entire time, man, what would Miami's defensive line do to Oregon's offensive line if this is what's happening with a very, very good Texas Tech line? But is it not true that Miami's is maybe slightly better?
Oh, I think so, yeah. I mean, they're right up there with them. Like you say, Mario builds it on the lines, and
100%.
Ruben Bain and that group on the defensive line, and Francis and those guys on the offensive line. I think tonight, like I say, and Mario will enjoy going up against an SEC team and trying to prove that his Miami line is better on both sides, and I think we'll see that tonight. I think you're going to see Mario running the ball. And now I know what all you Mario haters think. Oh, God, if you're putting game management in Mario's hands. I have long said I think that's overrated. I think, there have been a couple moments of that.
Game management's overrated.
No, I think that Mario's lack of game management is, there have been some bad moments. The Stanford
100%.
game, Georgia Tech a couple years ago.
I was on the sideline
for the
Stanford game.
But people act like, 4 times a game this guy screws something up, and Oregon fans have a little revisionist history with that.
Can I comment on this?
Yeah.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
As someone that does think that he has a problem with game management, I also think that what he's doing with Miami exactly shows what I was saying when he was on his way out and when there was that, I don't know, there was a 3-day period or 2-day period where it was like, or maybe it was shorter than that, where you really didn't know what he was going to do. And if you told me, hey, we didn't know Dan Lanning was coming in, so it was either going to be Cristobal or somebody else, I was on the, hey, I know that he's got some issues with that, but just look at his recruiting and look at the rosters he builds. And I think, like you're saying, I think that the game management stuff's a little bit overrated when you're building the rosters that he is. And I always thought he needed a better offensive coordinator. I think he has one.
He's got one, Shannon Dawson now. Yeah, no, I just think people build and a lot of it's lazy. People see, oh, he screwed this up against Stanford in that game, and then now we're going to just say that every game he screws up 2 or 3 moments a game.
Sure.
He outcoached Ryan Day in that last one there. I'll tell you right now, him and his staff outdid that. And I think that was good. And look, Ole Miss guy, and again, he's in his second game as head coach. Georgia game, they totally bundled it at the end of the half. They were in field goal range, and they threw a pass that the guy stayed in bounds. It happens. Dan Lanning's, if Texas Tech can score some points last week, Oregon fans are going crazy about Dan Lanning's field goals and game management. That stuff happens. And like I say, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Mario screws something up tonight, but I think that talent-wise, I think they're better than Ole Miss. I think that we will see Miami win that one tonight, and I would love to see it. I would love to see Oregon, Miami put that thing together there in Miami. As Miami would be in Miami as the visiting team in their home stadium, and Oregon fans would be flying back out there. It would be a fascinating one to see. I still hate the idea that tonight's game's the Fiesta Bowl, and Oregon and Indiana are playing in the Peach Bowl. How we didn't end up in this world putting Miami and Ole Miss to where both those teams could drive to that place. Indiana, Oregon would have short flights or this and that. How we somehow sent these people, we don't just stop and wait until the matchups are set before determining which of those bowls goes. Right. I won't understand, but that one's there. But
you digress.
I digress, and it doesn't matter because I'm not going to them anyway. But I'm just saying, if I were a Mississippi fan having to go out to plan a flight when I could have driven, and same thing with the Miami folks. But yeah, I think it'll be a fun one tonight. I think I'm excited to see kind of that stage and see. I think it should be a good matchup. I don't think we've seen some blowouts, not just with Group of Fives. We've seen some blowouts with some
Alabama.
of the Power Fives, with some of the Power Fives as well. I don't see this one tonight, and I don't know I don't know what the over-under betting line is, but if it's anything over about 45, I'd probably take the under.
Yeah, well, surprise, surprise. Yeah,
I don't see the shootout here. If we were doing bigger bets,
53.5.
53.5. I am pushing
Hammer the under.
Button. Yep, I see this as a 24-20 type situation, but we'll wait and see on that one there. All right, we're going to head to our first break. When we come back, Zach Neel is going to be joining us. Zach Neel is in Atlanta with Ducks Wire. He gives you great coverage of the Ducks, joins us regularly. We are going to be on site as we get it within 26 hours of tomorrow night's Oregon-Indiana game. Zach Neel will come on and give us the latest news from the press conference today with Dan Lanning and Curt Cignetti. All right, this is Steve Mims. I'm filling in for Danny. You're listening to the Danny and Justin Show on Fox Sports Eugene and Fox Sports Newport. Welcome back into the Danny and Justin Show. This is Steve Mims filling in for Danny, who is in Atlanta and apparently has a very similar itinerary to Zach Neel, who joins us now, who is also in Atlanta. I understand they were on the same flight out yesterday. And Zach, I'm going to hope Danny sent a drink to your row. Am I correct on that?
Yes, you were absolutely correct. He sent a nice beer back my way. It was very, very nice of him.
Good for him. Good for him. All right. Well, hey, we are 26 hours out, and I really appreciate you coming on. I know it's a busy day there. We had the press conference this morning, and I thought you summed it up well that Curt Cignetti and Dan Lanning be a pretty good buddy cop movie, huh?
Those two, I mean, I don't know what it is about their humor. They've both got this just dry sense of humor. You know that they don't really want to be there, but they're doing it because they have to, and they're willing to let you know that. So I think we've had 2 joint press conferences with them so far. They've both been entertaining. They both kind of make each other laugh. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
And neither of them seem to want to give away anything. Like you say, there's no, whether it be bulletin board material either way, there's no, hey, here's what our game plan looks like. Both of them seem like you say, they're just trying to get through these press conferences as bland as possible and maybe to laugh at each other a little bit.
I mean, they're both cut from the Nick Saban cloth. So they both worked under Saban. They know what it's like to prepare, to, not, like you said, not give bulletin board material and just kind of get out of there saying as little as possible. So I think they're both very good in that respect.
And I think when the pregame buildup has led us to whether or not Oregon's fifth-string running back is available to be the third-string running back, that tells me it's kind of ready to tip this thing off and go kick it off and get this thing played. There's not much more to discuss. We've seen these teams before. We know them both well. Let's just kind of get this thing and go out there and see how it plays out at this point.
Yeah, what a world that we're in, where we're talking about, if a linebacker or two can maybe play some offensive snaps, but they don't really, yes, like you said, let's kick the game off. I think we're good. Oregon has two really, really good running backs in De'Aaron Hill and Noah Whittington healthy. I mean, a lot of teams in the nation would be happy to have those two running backs or even more. So, too bad that Jordan Davison is not available. He was very big in that game last time against Indiana, would be a big factor in this game too. But you know what? They've said all year, strength in numbers, next man up, let's play the game. I think they're ready.
I've just been saying it's very on brand for Oregon to have some injury pop up in between games, like the Kayvon Thibodeau injury, Evan Stewart injury against Ohio State in their respective years. But I just like to think about also this previous matchup. This is obviously a rematch. And I saw you talking to Dan Rubenstein about this. It's not like that game was a big blowout for Indiana, despite them winning, and it was a close game the entire way. Ended up at 10 points. But what do you think that coming into this game now, because the rosters are different, there's been some of these changes, both sides, some injuries for Indiana, for instance, on the defensive line. What do we take away from that last game going into this game?
I think it was a good kind of measuring stick. I liked what I know Bryce said it this week. I think a couple other players did as well, that they didn't really give Indiana the respect that they deserved. And that's not saying that Indiana is not a great team. It didn't deserve to win that game. But coming off that Penn State game, this Oregon team felt pretty good about themselves. So, Dan has talked a lot about this team is not who that team was. I mean, that was, the sixth game of the year, I believe. It's a lot of true freshmen, redshirt freshmen playing. Dante Moore is more experienced now. Brandon Finney's more experienced. Ifeoma Badegu, all of these guys, they're veterans now. I think they're really prepared for this moment. I think they feel good about the talent that they have. They may not be as deep as they would like to be because of the portal, but, those are excuses. They want to line the ball up. They feel good about the talent. They feel good about their coaching. They want to play.
Joined by Zach Neel from Ducks Wire. Follow him on Twitter at Zachary C. Neel, Neel. Zach, one thing I was just talking about here with Justin, and it's one of my kind of concerns about Oregon, and if I'm off base, tell me I'm an idiot. I'm more than happy to hear that too. But one thing I've thought is there's just more, and not by anything of their own doing, there's just more noise out of Oregon this week. It's, the two coordinators are moving on. It's 4 or 5 guys have gone into the portal. It's the running backs injured. It's Dan has somehow become the spokesman. Everybody wants him to save college football. And it feels like there's just been a lot more noise there, whereas Cignetti and his group, his coordinators are staying. There hasn't been a whole lot of injuries or players departing, or just kind of over here devising and this and that, whereas Oregon's got a lot more noise going on. Anything to that?
You're not wrong. I mean, I'm not going to call you an idiot for sure, but you're not wrong. There's stuff going on, but what we don't know is whether or not that's going to play a major factor.
Yeah.
I mean, Tosh Tapoy is a psychopath. He's not going to work too little ahead of this game. I noticed, and I know I'm not the only one that noticed, that Will Stein looked a little bit tired yesterday coming off the plane and in his press conference. He should be. We all would be. That doesn't mean that they're underprepared. It means they're working hard, as they should be. I know there's a lot of off the field storylines going on. In the end, I think this team is going to be prepared. I think we trust the coaching staff, and they're going to have them prepared. We just got to see what it looks like on the field. I can't imagine there's a world where Oregon just looks outclassed in this game. I think they're too talented, too well coached. I just don't see that happening.
We saw in the Texas Tech game, I felt like, when they were going for it on fourth down, Dan kind of knew, look, this team's offense, they're not going to be able to score enough to keep up with us. We can take a few chances. Would you, and I think tomorrow, if they get in those situations, you think they're more likely to be a little bit more conventional, kick some field goals, maybe not go for it on his fourth, knowing that, the Indiana might be able to take advantage of anything we give them more so than Texas Tech was going to be able to?
Yeah, I think you might be a little bit more conventional, just knowing that this could very well be a 17-13 game, 20-17, where those 3 points really may matter. If you're in 4th and 1, 4th and 2 from the 10, maybe you go for it. But if it's 4th and 1, 4th and 2 from the 25, and you know that you still have work to do to get into the end zone, even if you do convert, you may kick the field goal. So I think that there's, Dan even said after last game, like, yeah, I maybe should have taken some points in some of those instances instead of going for it 8 times. But I don't know. I think that going into this game, they know that points are going to be at a premium against a defense as good as Indiana's. So I think we see maybe a few more kicks from Atticus Sappington.
So that's your lean. You think that this is going to be a lower scoring game then?
I think so. I've got 23-21 Oregon. I think it's going to be, I think the over-under is 46.5 last I saw. So under that, I think it's going to be really close. So I just don't see this being a blowout either way.
Zach, is the temperature of Oregon fans, if Miami wins tonight, tomorrow takes on even, it raises from a 9.9 to a 10 point something, right? I mean, if we're a step away from Mario versus Oregon, tomorrow just ramps up even more, doesn't it?
I think so. I honestly think that, regardless of if Miami wins or not tomorrow is still, it's obviously massive. I don't know that it becomes more important, but if they do win tomorrow and Miami wins tonight, it's after the game, it's going to be kind of an instant realization like, oh my God, we are getting the Dan Lanning versus Mario Cristobal Bowl. That's going to be incredible.
I was just saying, and for fans, it's one thing, but for you to have basically your storylines are written for a week, it's all, there's so much out there.
Yeah, I can't imagine the page views and just the number of storylines and everything that would come from that. That would be very fun. I desperately hope we get there because that'd be very entertaining.
Yeah, it would be. What have you gone back and watched that first matchup again and seen whether it be somebody who you're like, oh, I think he's a little better now, or hey, I think Oregon does this, or maybe even Indiana maybe messed up some things. And your review of the first game now, 2 months later, anything that stuck out to you as, hey, if this is a little different, it could change the result?
Yeah, there's 3 things. They're very baseline. The one most obviously is just Dante Moore. He has to play better. He made a lot of mistakes in that game. It was by far the worst game he's played all year. He has to play at an A level to win this game. Just cut and dry. That's simple. That's what has to happen. I'm also very curious to see game plan wise if Oregon leans on running the ball. They had a lot of success. They ran over 5 yards per carry as a team last time they played Indiana, and then they kind of went away from it in the second half and just stopped running the ball for whatever reason. I'd like to see them stay with the run more, and then I want to see how they use Jamari Johnson. Jamari was not a player who had broken out yet at the time of this game last, a couple months ago. I want to see how they develop him and get him involved in this game with 12 personnel. That's a major advantage that they have that other teams don't, to use that personnel, use 2 big, not only physical tight ends, but good dynamic pass-catching tight ends as well. So those are 3 things that I'm really looking at for Oregon.
Yeah, I definitely think we're going to see some more 2 tight end sets as well, maybe even 3 tight end sets with what's going on in the running back room. But another thing that happened in that game is they pressured Fernando Mendoza, I think it was 16 times, but they only got 1 sack. I have to check my numbers on that. But do you think they can get to him as the quarterback this game?
I think so. I think that's going to be important. Indiana's offensive line is no slouch. And once you get to Fernando Mendoza, you have to cage him. It's not enough to get pressure. He's very good with his legs. He's going to get out of the pocket on you a lot. But to me, it's about first down success and second down success and making sure that Indiana does not have a bunch of 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 4s where they can just open up the playbook, because that's when they're really going to hurt you. That's when Fernando can use his legs and they can get the RPO offense going. So I think bottling up the run early on and then, trying to get in those situations where, it's 3rd and 8 and it's going to be a passing down. Then you can let Mateo and Tatum kind of pin their ears back and get after the quarterback.
Yeah. And then with, we talk about obviously the running back injuries. The other option is not at this point to say, hey, they have to throw more, right? They have to run against Indiana. They got to get themselves some favorable things. You can't think that the option is, hey, Davidson's out. That just means they got to put the ball in Dante's hands a little bit more. I don't see them wanting to change the game plan again. It may change some of the people who are in there, but the idea of how much they want to run doesn't change because Davidson's out.
I completely agree. And you know what? They still have 2 really, really good running backs. Noah Whittington is great. Deere Hill is a fantastic back. I know he didn't have as much success against Indiana last time. He's more of an outside of the tackle rusher. That's where he finds most of his success. and Indiana did a good job of bottling him up. So whether it be, those two plus Jay Harris or, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Sadiq back there in the backfield a little bit for a couple of plays here and there. So, Will Stein is among the most creative play callers in the nation. I trust him to, scheme this thing up.
I've been saying it all week. Tatum Tuioti, all-conference running back at Sheldon High School. I'm telling you right now,
true.
All-conference running back at Sheldon for that one there. And I mean, Justin was talking about how D.R. Hill's career high is 10. With 2 games left in the season, I mean, you can try to get him to 12 to 14 if you have to. If Noah Whittington looks good out there, and, hey, again, with only 2 left, if you're getting up to 25, 26 carries and he looks like Derrick Henry out there, at this point, you're not on any sort of pitch counts for anybody. You're going to kind of run these guys and see how big of a workload they can handle.
Yeah, you're not saving them for anything right now. It's do or die. It's win or go home. I mean, leave it all out on the field and just make sure to lean on something if you find success early on. I mean, if the run doesn't work early on and the pass is working, then lean on the pass, but make sure you keep the defense true with your run. If it's the opposite, just don't go away from the run and go to the pass just because you feel you need to spread it out. Just, find what's working and stick with it because, you got 60 minutes for the rest of the season. So I think that's very critical here.
He is Zach Neel, Ducks Wire. Follow him all the time for your information, but especially this week as we lead into the semifinal. Zach, it's been Miami to Eugene, back to Atlanta. You might be home and back in Miami. If they end up winning this thing, you're going to have to take Mackenzie on the kids. You should have more air miles and hotel miles than you need for a free family vacation.
Yeah, I'm racking up the flight miles. I've got my buddy Danny getting me the drink voucher. Yes. I think we're in a good situation.
All right. Well, hey, enjoy your time there. Thanks again. I know there's a ton going on there right now. Thanks so much for taking a couple minutes with us. And if you're in Miami next week, we may be giving you a call again.
Hey, I've always got time for you guys. Appreciate it.
All right. He is Zach Neel, Ducks Wire. Go ahead and follow him on there as he gives you all the information leading up to the Peach Bowl tomorrow in Atlanta, Georgia. All right, when we come back, we are going to pivot a little bit, head into some NBA. We've got Travis Demers coming on to join us and talk about the suddenly surging Blazers. Are they a playoff team? We'll ask Travis when we come back. This is Steve Mims filling in for Danny. You're listening to the Danny and Justin Show on Fox Sports Newport and Fox Sports Eugene. Welcome back into the Danny and Justin Show. This is Steve Mims filling in for Danny. And Justin, we have some in-state royalty joining us now. We have the newly crowned Oregon Sports Broadcaster of the Year. Travis Demers is joining us now. Travis, thank you very much for coming on. Congratulations on a well-deserved award.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me. I'm really socially awkward and don't do well with compliments. So I was like, thank you, and don't know what else to say, but I really appreciate the kind words. Thank you.
You haven't gotten the T-shirt written up yet that says Oregon and the coffee cups and everything else that says Sports Broadcaster of the Year 2025?
Yeah, if that happens, I give you direct permission to punch me in the face.
Sounds good. Well, hey, exciting one last night, and we heard it here on KORE. The Blazers go down to the wire with the Rockets. The Rockets, for a few seconds there, thought they had won it on a Tari Eason tip-in. But, man, this everything's coming up roses for the Blazers. No pun intended there, coming up roses. But everything's going well. It's overturned, and now this team is 18-20 and in the play-in game right now. You've been tweeting about it, but winning 6 out of 7, this has really become a fun team to watch.
Yeah, it has. I mean, especially considering that, if you take Damian Lillard out of the equation because he wasn't going to play this year, you had 6 rotation guys out of the lineup last night. And it's been that way for most of the year. So, if a team runs a 10-man rotation, you've got 6 guys out of the lineup. I mean, that's a lot. So the fact that obviously Denny Avdia has been carrying a lot, but they've been able to win these games against really good teams by getting complete team efforts from guys that, had basically no experience as of a couple of months ago. It says so much about the entire team and organization from top to bottom.
And it was just a really fun game last night. You had a great call. You were super fired up after they overturned the call. You could tell that it was going to be overturned, though. So good on you for that call. That's why you're the 2025 Oregon Sportscaster of the Year. But Denny, obviously we've talked about him before, but there really isn't much more that you can say about how much he has improved this season, even from a great season last year. And I don't exactly know what I mean by this question, but At what point do you go all in on this guy? I don't know exactly what I mean by going all in on him because obviously he's kind of under contract already, but he's so good, and I'm not saying he's there yet, but at what point is he the guy?
It's hard to say because you don't have to necessarily have a guy be the guy, and that's something that over the years we've heard so much about. Going back to the Brandon Roy, LaMarcus Aldridge days of, is this B. Roy's team? Is this LA's team? And then is this Dame's team or is this LA's team? And you look at the teams that have had a lot of success in recent history, right? Now, you could look at the Warriors that had that the dynasty there, and it was very clearly Steph's team, but that didn't take away from anything that anybody else did. The Nuggets, same thing. It was very clearly Jokic's team, but you had a lot of other players who could do a lot of things. When Dame was in Milwaukee, well, it's Giannis' team. It didn't really matter, right? And I think that's what's important about it is that if the team is really committed to winning, what's Damian Lillard going to look like when he comes back? Does he still have elite years left? I have no idea. And if he does, as long as he's on the roster, I think it's always his team if you really want to look at it that way. But it doesn't have to necessarily be anybody else's team. The Thunder, I think, are a perfect example of that. Yeah, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander does a lot, but that team is loaded top to bottom.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, we've talked for endless years now that the rebuild's coming and, there's a tank in process. I mean, they're 18-20 now. You mentioned some guys who'll be coming back, Grant, Holiday. I mean, are we at the point now where we can say this team is full speed ahead and whether it be the play-in or maybe they can get up to that 6, but this is a team that we're no longer worried about is this going to be the 7th year in a row that Jeremy Grant doesn't play after, a certain number of days? This team is kind of all in at this point for this season, right?
Yeah, and I think that was the plan from early on, right? So, because they have an opportunity now with some, players who are figuring it out, that's kind of the direction they have to go. So, whoever's playing, they're going to be playing to win. I don't think they're going to be resting players with, draft implications in mind. They're in the 9th spot right now. They're a few games ahead of Dallas, who's in 11. I don't see them not being in the mix for a play-in at the very least this year. And, yeah, they'll go through some stretches where they lose 5 of 7 or whatever it is. But they've got one of the 2 easiest schedules in the league. You hope guys come back. Maybe they do soon. Maybe they don't. At this point, I'm done trying to figure out or guesstimate when the guys are coming back.
Come on, when's Scoot coming back, Travis? When's that hamstring? Come on.
I would imagine sometime in the calendar year of 2026. I hope, but I have no idea.
No, I know.
But yeah, so I think with the guys that are out there, yeah, it's full speed ahead, and sometimes, yeah, Denny's going to need some rest. Shaedon Sharp's going to need some rest. Donovan Klingen's going to need some rest, but I don't think you do any of that with the reasoning being, well, we're playing for draft picks.
Mm-hmm. So Chicago might finally get that draft pick back. They might finally have to give up that draft pick to Chicago at some point.
Now, if the Blazers make the play-in and then do not make the playoff,
right?
Yeah,
they still keep their pick.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Lottery protected.
Yep.
Then could this be? I mean, are we looking at a trade deadline where they could be buyers? I mean, I know we've heard about maybe Grant goes out and in the past years has been out. Could you see a situation where, and I know they don't have a whole lot to give up in terms of picks because that Chicago one blocks some things, but could you see them bring in somebody who's an additive and try to say, hey, maybe we bring somebody in for these last couple of months that gets us into that 6 or a favorable play-in spot and really kind of go all in?
I don't think so. I don't think they make any moves that are specifically for this season. They could have. Right, we could have seen them do something to go get a point guard. They might have to. I mean, they're going to have to do something with Sidi Sissoko and Caleb Love at some point because those guys are running out of two-way eligibility. So that's going to be a decision that Drew Cronin has to make. But as we get closer to February, which isn't that far off, I would be really surprised if they do anything that is we're going to go in for this year. Anything that they're going to do is going to be bigger picture, 2, 3, 4 years. They're not going to go trade for a guy that is a rental because it can help them get a better playoff spot and sacrifice anything for the future, a draft pick, a young player, to go get somebody who's on an expiring deal to, help them, get out of the play-in and be a top 6 seed. I would be really surprised if that happens.
I'm glad you brought up Sissoko and Love, actually. I was going to ask you about those two guys specifically. Have they proven enough that they could be rotation guys on the next winning and going for it Trailblazers basketball team?
I think it's relative because who else is on the roster, So, yeah, they can be. They can be, I think at this point today, right now, I think they're back-end rotation guys, kind of borderline in that spot. But who's available? Who's on the roster? If they need to play like we've seen them, then yeah, they certainly can. But if they are, if Caleb Love has Drew Holiday and Shaden Sharp, Scoot Henderson, whoever it is in front of him, he's going to be the 4th or 5th option. And same thing with Sidi Sissoko. So, yeah, they can play. But if this team is fully healthy, no, I don't think they're in the rotation. And it's not a knock on them. They have definitely proven themselves to be viable NBA players.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Also, another guy who's doing that now, and one of the bright spots recently has been Donovan Clingan. We talked about last year, maybe a little out of shape, not a great offensive game, but you saw some potential. Feels like this is a jump in year 2 for him to where he's now become, this is the center for this team.
Yeah, I mean, he's averaging a double-double this year, first of all. But the things that he has done this year to improve his rebounding, number one. I mean, he's lead the league in offensive rebounds. And his touch around the basket, to your point about being an offensive player, his touch around the basket is so improved. He still misses some shots, sure, but you can rely on him in that position now. And that was something that you couldn't necessarily say last year. And he's elevated his perimeter game too. So there's a lot of things that he's done to give himself a fully overall, all-around game. And this team needs that from him, especially with Robert Williams III, who's playing spot minutes, and he's averaging about 16 a night, and Young Hansen, who is still very, very young. For DC to be able to have more wind and be able to do those things, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, before we let you go, Travis, you mentioned Young Hansen there. Hansen, are we seeing? I mean, he's played during this 6-7 run. He's done some time with the remix, been back and forth. Are we starting to see a little bit more out of him?
Yeah, I think so. And again, it's going to take some time, right? So he's still 20 years old. He's still trying to figure out the language. He's still absolutely trying to figure out the physicality in the league. And really, there aren't many, if any, centers, whether they're 19, 20, or 24, that can step in day one and be the best version of themselves. And it's going to be a process for him. But I think what we have seen, there has been growth. The passing is there. He's understanding things more. And it'll continue to go that way, but it's also going to continue to take time.
Yeah. And occasionally he is going to get thrown around by Steven Adams, who has thrown around more than a few centers in his life.
I mean, he's throwing around Donovan Clingan right now.
That's true as well. Houston back tomorrow night, right?
Yep.
They're just
one more, and then the Knicks on Sunday.
All right. They're just hanging around in town, and if you're in Portland today and you see some tall people walking around, it might be the Houston Rockets who are hanging around. Travis, thanks so much. You can listen tomorrow night, KORE, Fox Sports Eugene, for the Blazers and the Rockets. We are honored to have the 2025 Oregon Sports Broadcaster of the Year, Travis Demers. He joins us all the time. Thanks so much, Travis, for always taking the time to join us and can keep up with the great work. Like I say, for somebody who's you and I used to bounce around some old rickety high school football bleachers on a Friday night, so it's fun to watch all the success that's come your way, and especially knowing how much you deserve it. So congrats.
Well, it really means a lot. I can't say that enough. Thank you. And I always appreciate you guys having me and thinking of me.
All right. Travis Demers joins us, and you can hear him again tomorrow night when the Blazers take on the Rockets. That's a good interview there with Travis, and this is a fun Blazer team. Justin, it's, we've kind of been through years now of tanking at this time of the year. You're going to the All-Star break thing, and who are they going to try to trade off, and are they going to be able to tank towards the end of the year? This has been kind of fun to have a Blazer team that, you're kind of like, hey, maybe there's some upside potential.
Well, they're not on the outside looking in right now.
Yeah.
They're in the play-in pretty handily right now. They're at the 7th spot. So I think you're still not looking at them probably getting up to the 6th spot. That's where Houston is. Phoenix is at 22-15 as well. But they're right in the mix there in the play-in. And they do have a lot of young pieces where I don't know if it's easy to evaluate the team because of the injuries, but you can evaluate the talent. And some of the talent has looked very interesting.
Yeah, and we've talked about, all the draft picks they had, and coming in this year, their questions. I think Shaden Sharp has shown that he's a scorer. Is he a great all-around player? No, but he's certainly a building point there. As Travis was talking about there, Donovan Clingan looks like a guy who's going to be a double-double and a strong defensive player and a rim protector, so you've got that kind of taken care of there. Unfortunately, we just don't know on Scoot Henderson because he's not even playing that this year. Unfortunately, I think we're going to go into a year when they have to make a qualifying offer, and we're just not going to know yet on him. And then next year, you look at all of a sudden Dame Miller comes back. There's maybe next year, maybe this is building towards next year. When Tiago Splitter has a full off season, and you have a little bit more of a view of what these guys can do, and you're bringing in Lillard. Maybe next year's the year that we're looking at is kind of the go year, but. I think it's at least entertaining to see the Blazer team that might be able to be around 500.
Yeah, no, there's some fun young players who you can see their improvement. I completely agree. And something we talked about with Travis is that I don't think they're going to make a big move in between now and next season. I think they like their collection of players. Scoot might be the odd man out. It's very unfortunate when players, it's when they're one of their biggest assets is the fact that you're really young. Which he's super young and athletic, but if you're not playing, you're not developing. And so at some point, you're just a player that hasn't developed. So I don't think he's there yet, but I think that is the concern with Scoot, that you're going to see Dame come back next year. You already have Drew Holiday on the roster. At that point, like, you Shaden Sharp, you just have too many guards at a certain point where I'm not sure exactly where his fit is. And, if Dame's on the team, it's kind of going to be Dame's team, like Travis said. So I think the Scoot situation is going to be very interesting. I think he might end up being a trade piece. I think you might have to decide between him and Holiday at some point. And if you're trying to win with Dame, then I don't know why you wouldn't want to have a guy like Drew Holiday.
Yeah. No, good point. All right. Basketball tomorrow night. You can listen here on the Blazers on KORE with Blazers and Rockets. Here, Travis Demers. And if you want your elongated Danny and Justin show tomorrow previewing the Oregon-Indiana Peach Bowl, you'll have that tomorrow, Justin. And tell us again, 12-3 with Cameron Derby. And who are the guests?
It's going to be Dave Revson for them, lead anchor Big Ten Networks, Adam Rittenberg from ESPN, friend of the program. These are all friends of the program. Yep. And then George Reister is going to join us as well. And I'm going to do my top 5. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to call it, like most pivotal or best moments of the season or something like that. I'm going to have some fun with that and kind of rank the top moments from the season, which is kind of, I got to say, it's a little hard because Oregon hasn't played a ton of games where, looking back, there's been a few moments, where it was like, oh, and then that play happened. Like, there's a few. There's definitely some. The Iowa catch by Malik Benson, great throw by Dante Moore, the interception by Dylan Thieneman. I'm not going to give away too many of these. But I think it's going to be fun. We're going to have some fun just talking about this game and leading right up to kickoff. On KNCU, you're going to hear the pregame show at 2:30. But right here on Core, there's going to be, we're going to take it up to 3 o'clock. So it's going to be fun. So
if you're out driving around and you can't get enough of your duck fix, listen in with Justin and Cam Derby. And I know you guys will be all the up-to-date news as reporters start showing up on site. If there's any breaking news, whether it be injuries or other things, you guys will have that all there as well. All right. I'm not here tomorrow, so I'm gonna tell you I was looking at a pick to make, and Zach Neel said 23-21. I was looking and I said I think it's like 34-24, and I'm leaning Indiana in this one. Like I say, it's kind of talked about the noise bothers me a little bit around Oregon, and I just think Indiana's the more consistent team. I could see Oregon winning this game for sure. But right now, this just feels like Indiana is the team that's really peak. I know Danny thinks they're peaking and they can fall. I think this is a peak that they take all the way.
I'm kind of in agreement with you. I think it might be a little closer. I don't know if I have 10 points, but I think that it's going to be within a one-score game. Mm-hmm. I lean Indiana right now. Mm-hmm. It's the first game I've come into saying, I don't know if Oregon's a better team here. I'm with you. I think Indiana's peaking right now. They have been peaking for the last few weeks. I think that's going to continue in this game. They're going to play their best. They're not going to hand Oregon anything.
Yeah. And I don't think either of these teams, I don't think it's going to turn into what we saw last week with Tech, where suddenly there was a Texas Tech team that couldn't move it. They're going to be able to move it. I do think, like I said last week, if there's a pick six, if there's a fumble recovery, some unexpected major turnover, that could kind of turn this game as well. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening in the last couple days. It's been fun filling in for Danny. This is Steve Mims filling in for Danny. Again, tomorrow, a extended Just Danny and Justin show from 12 to 3, leading you up to the Oregon football game against Indiana. This is Steve Mims. I'm filling in for Danny. You're listening to the Danny and Justin show on Fox Sports Eugene and Fox Sports Newport.